recording. Okay. Okay, and I just want to welcome everybody formally to the Earth-Based Spirituality Action Team. Today, we have an amazing person that I'm just so always grateful to have, and I'm going to let them, as per normal, introduce themselves. So, Selena, why don't you take it away?
It's so good to be here, Andrea, and thanks to everyone joining live right now and those who will join when it gets archived. I'm Selena Fox. I am Senior Minister and High Priestess of Circle Sanctuary. We are an international nature spirituality church that's headquartered on a nature preserve in southwestern Wisconsin, USA, in a bioregion known as the Driftless area, meaning that the glaciers came down and skipped that part of Wisconsin and joined and continued on. So it's a really beautiful and unique geological area. And one of the things that I have been doing in 2025 has been drawing on my background in teaching people about communing with nature and my background doing nature therapy as a psychotherapist and putting together a series of presentations about how we can better connect with nature to deepen our understanding of the natural world and be a healing force, and how we can also benefit therapeutically from nature connections, in particular, enhancing resilience. Why enhancing resilience? When you are dealing with even one upheaval or unstable situation that takes some personal energy, not only physiologically, but emotionally, socially, intellectually, spiritually. So it's good to have a good recovery time and process. And I have found through nature communion that this can be really helpful. I'd like to begin by reading an excerpt of something that I wrote back in the 1970s. Yes, I've been doing this work for over 50 years. Circle Sanctuary celebrated its 50th birthday last year. And our Green Cemetery celebrates its 30th birthday this year. This is from a piece known as Nature Ritual. Journey into nature. Journey into self. Journey into divine interconnectedness. Find a place in nature that feels special to you. Find a place where you can be with plants, animals, and the elements. Journey there to commune with nature. Journey there to focus from being human-centric to being nature aware. Journey there to remind yourself that you are part of the whole of nature. Journey there to nurture your inner spirit and to strengthen your relationships with other life forms and the biosphere. Pay attention to sound. Listen to the wind, to the birds, to the other sounds of nature. Pay attention to sights. See the beauty of nature and the shapes, colors, and patterns of life forms around you. Feel nature's rhythms. Smell, taste, touch nature. Expand your awareness of your physical senses. Attune and commune with your sixth sense, your intuition, where there's neither space nor time, only being in the eternal now. Connect with wisdom, wisdom that's within you and around you in all of nature. Connect with spirit, that's part of self and more than self. Connect with nature and transform and renew. So be it. So that's a summary of what can be possible through connecting with nature. I'd like to share with you some of my own experiences and best practices for nature connections to enhance resilience. And then in the last part of our time together, I'm open to questions, comments, dialogue. I first started working with nature with other people in a therapeutic way back in the 1970s. It was a very informal approach then. I would sometimes, college campus, go in the forest with a friend who needed to process things. And being in the natural setting gave us a chance to enjoy the beauty of that, but it also took us away from what I call human centric spaces. And as I started doing additional studies and practices in the field of clinical psychotherapy and counseling, I realized that during my graduate studies at the University of Wisconsin in Madison in the 1990s, that I really wanted to take nature therapy to another level. And I had the opportunity to do my supervised practicum in probably the most intense kind of medical facility, a private for-profit lockdown psychiatric hospital with people with a lot of really intense mental issues. I was able to get permission from the administration and supervisors that I was working with at this hospital to take some of the patients I was working with as part of my supervised practicum outside to actually take them into the green. And I was able to do that. I usually did it one-on-one with someone, but sometimes I took small groups. And it wasn't so much I was trying to counsel as we were walking, but basically being a presence as we moved along the grounds. And then we would pause, have some conversation, and then continue on. Now, this wasn't a really long period of time outdoors, and it was some real horticultural space. There were some gardens and some lawns and that type of thing. However, I found that those patients that I was able to supplement the in clinic, in hospital counseling work with did much better than those who did not go out into the green as part of their work with me. And I've continued my own work with what I've called nature therapy ever since. Over the last 30 years, I do a private practice, spiritual psychotherapy and counseling practice. I don't advertise it very widely because I already have a very full client base, but I am continuing to learn on my own and through my clients as I do work. In addition to guiding people on journeys out in natural areas is part of my work. I also have done guided imagery work where we have used natural areas and different dimensions of nature in a meditative way to help bring some relaxation, some insights, and some transformation. So there is, back in 1982 in Japan, a form of medical treatment called Shinrin Yoku, forest bathing, started emerging. And there, I've actually, you can go on YouTube and listen to some of the original researchers and developers of Japanese forest bathing techniques through some YouTube videos. And I'm so glad that now forest bathing is being used as a form of clinical treatment for stress, anxiety, feeling exhausted across cultures, across national boundaries. And so, certainly, nature therapy that's forest bathing is something that continues to grow and practice, and people are trying different techniques and approaches with it. But that's not the only kind of nature connection that I've had direct experience with and that I've helped others with. One of my favorite things to do is to go by large bodies of water and to be at the shoreline. So whether this is fresh water or it's salt water or brackish water where the fresh and the salt come together, such as some of the wetland areas on barrier islands on the east coast of the US, being able to be in that liminal space of being on land, but also having the water present. I have guided a number of exercises and meditations of being just in that in between liminal space and being one with the water, being one with the land, being one with the air. And usually this is done during the day, though sometimes I have done night walks in natural places and experiencing the warmth of the sun. So different ecosystems and locations have different impacts on different people. We have some of our own preferences and past history. And so one of the things that I encourage people to do if they want to deepen their understanding of how to enhance personal resilience through nature connection is to find at least one place, preferably close by to where you live. And it doesn't have to be a total wilderness location. It can be a park, it can be a garden, it can be a tree nearby where you live. But to have a place that would be your special place in nature and that you go and spend time with it, consider it part of your support network and consider yourself as part of the support network of that location. So it's working with spirit of place, it's working with the natural world, not just with trees and herbs and other vegetation, but the creatures that are present and the elements in the form of the soil, the rocks, the earth, the air that you breathe, the breezes, the winds, the atmosphere, the fire of the sun or the moon, if you're doing this at night, or the starlight, the sacred fire of life force, and water, bodies of water, but also water that's in the atmosphere, that's within our bodies, and the fifth element, spirit, that which interconnects all together, and using the ancient pagan symbol of the pentacle, a pentagram encircled. That circle is the circle of nature that connects all together. So find a place where you can not only do some spiritual practice, walk to it, be there, and spend at least 5 to 10 minutes, and if you can, a longer period of time at this place. I think a good practice is to honor it in a way that works with your own philosophy, spirituality, or religious orientation. And then to experience yourself being one with that area. And then when you are done giving thanks, and after you depart, spend some time integrating what your experience has been. By suggesting you go to a natural place, it's not so much go outside and think about your problems or your to-do list. No, it's go to that place, be one with the place, experience the place, be in that be here now consciousness and listen, experience. You may have things that rise up in your mind that are very important insights. You might have stuff that pops up in your mind that is the to-do list you haven't done yet. When that happens, it doesn't mean that you're flunking nature connection meditation. It just means you're having an opportunity to be even more aware of your mental processes and to just let that be dispelled as you become um, back in basically communing with nature. Now, some people find it really helpful in doing a nature walk or a nature meditation to take what you might call kind of the open framework. You are one with everything that you're encountering and experiencing. For other people, it's more helpful to pick a particular part of a natural scene. And for example, you're by a tree and there's a bird up in the tree singing. You may want to focus your nature connection experience with the bird, hearing the sound, seeing the bird, and actually recognizing that you're hearing a language of another species. And for myself, sometimes I do one of those forms very focused in. Sometimes I do the more open, but most of the time I do a combination. I'm in a more open space. I'm usually taking a walk. And then when something rises up in my awareness in the natural world, I'll shift focus from wide open to that particular thing. Um, every summer we put on our week-long biggest event of the year called Pagan Spirit Gathering. It's a week-long celebration of summer solstice. And we just celebrated our 45th anniversary. It was really an amazing gathering. And we had changed to a new venue. We were in a total forested campsite. And not only was the private campground all forest, but it was embedded in a forest ecosystem, a national forest with thousands of acres. Not great if you really needed to text or do email. There really wasn't much cell, there was no Wi Fi or whatever. However, I can tell you, being in that embedded forest community of thousands of acres around our campground was very transformative. Whether people took part in my creating and working with tree rituals workshop series or not, Dennis Carpenter, my husband, and I also did a resilience with nature communion at Pagan Spirit Gathering. But as I mentioned at some of our meetings at the gatherings, just camping out here, being in community for a week, you're forest bathing. You don't really have to do any fancy technique. You're just here as part of the forest community. I guess the other things I'll say about nature meditation and nature connections, part of this does involve some greater self-awareness and being willing to shift our consciousness when we consider a natural area more as a backdrop in a theatrical setting to I am part of a living community. And I do think a number of us do get programmed to think of nature as backdrop rather than as living system that we're part of. And I do think the nature connection piece for those of us who are environmental activists is more important now than ever before. There is so much upheaval happening in the United States, federally with government agencies, nationally across the different states, that uncertainty, that sudden change, that upheaval, the challenges in the courts and the other things, and especially some of the actions that are directly undermining good environmental practices, all of that can be extremely stressful. And as somebody who's been doing environmental work since the 1960s, I can tell you that I'm having opportunities to do some of those nature connections, communion experiences to really help bolster the spirit. So I'm so thankful that all of you took some time out tonight to be with the Earth-Based Spirituality Action Team of the Citizens Climate Lobby. And thank you, Andrea, for having me back. I'd like to spend our last little bit of time opening it up for questions and comments. Um, because our pumpkin hour is in about 10 minutes. So when the Zoom runs out. So who would like